This S2000 is here for us to basically go over it and start it. This is a brand new engine. It's a new engine from Inline Pro. It's a 2.4 motor. It's got a supercharger kit. It's never been ran. It's got a wire tuck, which we're not a big fan of, but a local wiring shop has gone through it and verified the wiring is correct. So we're going to go through and basically do our checklist before we do anything. Obviously, check the oil, check the trans, check the coolant, make sure everything is good. Then it's got some unknown size injectors. They think they're 2200s, which we're not even going to try and start those on gas because 2200 is way too big on gas. We're never going to be able to trim that down enough, especially on Flash Pro. This is a little bit hokey.
We're at low.
We are at low, aren't we?
Yep, and this is supposed to be braking oil. I don't know what braking oil it is.
I don't even know where the battery is. Another reason I don't really like tuck cars, because rather than working on the car, you're searching for things before you can work. So we have basically no fuel pressure, cycling it, even playing with the regulator right here. We're only getting to 15 PSI, so we're gonna have to drop the fuel pump and see what's going on in there. So it's had a different pump put in. This is that Walbro 560 or 525.
Not sure which one it is.
The bigger pump, but basically this is the feed right here. This just doesn't work right. It's loose on there and it fell off the pump. You see, this has to be sealed. This is pressure coming from the pump. It can't leak here and it can't leak here, and that's what's happening. As you see, it would have been a push lock, but of course the gas got to it. Looks like it's rubbed through right there too.
Yeah, it got a hole in it.
There's actually fuel safe hose designed to be submerged. This basically out of a fuel pump kit. There we go. So we got a much straighter area now. We trimmed this case to get some more room. Proper hose that's more straight. It's not bending and it's not rubbing on the case. So, oh yeah, plenty of fuel pressure now. Yeah, now we can adjust it and drop it down a little bit. It's going to 70. These are the injectors that were in it, and it's just a little bit questionable what they are. There's markings on it and they kind of contradict each other. So we had to modify the standoffs because it has an AP1 rail on an AP2 manifold. The blower kit is tightened up. We're going to check the belt alignment here. Hopefully that is correct. It had a factory map sensor on it. George is just putting on a 4-bar. All right, you ready? Wow, listen to that. Could that be a dry clutch or what? Like if you go slow, you can't press the clutch down. Yeah, you go fast, but you go slow.
Yeah, you gotta jam it to make it go. Whenever you get that clutch pedal pushed in.
Ready?
Yep. So I was looking at the belts to see if the belts were lining up, and actually the factory tension, or the factory idler actually, is not spinning. So one spot of that's probably pretty polished already. See if we can see anything wrong with it.
Still got half a dozen codes up here.
Does it really?
I'm just gonna key off and check code again.
Oh yeah, it's missing a washer. You can see that that thing there is not flat, so it's tightened against the bearing somehow. And then you pull this back apart and...
Yep, mailman's here. We're doing some measuring here because the belt alignment didn't look correct. As you see, that's how far it is off. It's almost an entire rib off. Putting the straight on here, so this spacer in here is wrong. This was the spacer that was put in incorrectly to push this pulley. That pulley wasn't spinning. That washer was folded up around there. The supercharger kit has been completely removed and reassembled to align the bushings. All of those bushings were wrong, and the belt was almost 4 millimeters off, so now it's all back together. The guard is off right now. We're just going to kind of look it over and make sure the belt rides correctly. Again, this is just one of those things when you're dealing with something that somebody else has put together. Like it's tracking pretty nice right now. back in nicely. So everyone has their own braking process. You just don't want the RPMs to stay in the same spot over and over. So I got a little bit of water on the firewall, so one of those hoses has an issue. We'll just notice bolts are backing out on the header. So if I put the header on, probably didn't tighten it. Again, this is one of those things, it's like whatever you don't check, that wasn't done correctly. Finally got the system to bleed out properly. We're going to bleed a bucket. The thermostat is now open. It's moving water. More and more check engine lights come on. The VSA is on, it's been on, but everything else I've turned off. Now it's got another check engine light, so there's something else it's not happy about. Again, when you ask us to do something like this, it's not that we're being difficult. We just know this is going to be the type of thing we deal with. Whatever else has been touched, it's got a problem. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack, and you don't know what the needle looks like. At least our coolant is bleeding correctly. So we got a pretty good puddle down there. Want to check it out, but we're thinking it might be the VTEC seal, because the Kraftwerk's kit came with those seals that were notorious for leaking. So hopefully that's all it is. It's a little wet down there. You see the splashing on the anodizing. So we're taking that bracket off first, see if that's all it is. Because if not, if it's a problem with the engine, who knows what seal is leaking down there. We used to talk about these back in the day. Look at that. And they still haven't fixed it. We were doing this 7 years ago. And we used to tell them that the seal was no good. It used to leak.
And they're like, yeah, okay.
And they go, yeah, okay, we'll just keep using it. That's what the factory one looks like. It's rounded. That one looks like it's okay. This one, the way it's pinched on the edges there.
And it's rounded for a reason, because when you tighten it, then it flattens out. If you put a flat gasket and you tighten it, it has nowhere to go.
Yeah, it has nowhere to go. Which is, again, crazy, because they have enough engineers over there that know how this stuff works. That might be all that is.
You'd think they do anyways.
Yeah, probably all left. So next step is we're waiting for some parts for the brakes. He has the spoon calipers, and then he has some powder coated rears to match the spoons, which actually came out really nice. There's a few pieces missing. I'll show you about that in a minute. While we're waiting for those, we're going to address the creaking clutch. We're going to drop the transmission, find out what's going on with it. I've seen somebody's kind of been in here and been playing around with that.
This is welded. This is Honda bonded. There's transmission fluid leaking out of that hole.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I see that's welded there.
Yeah, they Honda bonded the bolt in so the transmission fluid wouldn't leak out. They might have drilled through it when they retapped it and welded it.
That's not good at all. We need to find out more on that. Let's take that thing out.
Yeah, we gotta take everything down. Make sure that it even goes into one of those spots. I don't even know how that would be in there. Just
pull it out and stick a light in there and a pig stick. See if it goes through. Hopefully it doesn't. So this over here stops. This over here goes through. That noise? You can hear the inside of the transmission. So yeah, somebody has just filled that full of Honda Bond so the fluid doesn't leak out. This poor guy has had so many things go wrong, and he's someone that had this car the last time. They kept switching parts. I'm not going to go too far into it. But basically they switched his transmission and gave him this one. And they give it a quick paint to make it look like it's a real nice transmission. However,
alright, trans is down. I don't have a light, but I'll get one. Show you again. This is dry. Super lightweight flywheel. The bearing looks to possibly be the original. The grease inside it looks to possibly be also the original. So, and all that creak and noise you were hearing was coming from a brand new ACT clutch. So this was just put in, yet put in with, I'm thinking, the original bearing with possibly the original grease. So, get all this taken care of, get everything cleaned out, get a new bearing put in there, get everything greased up, and we should be good to go. And also, other than that, bolts that were in there. They're ARP bolts, and these washers are really trash looking. They're all concave. They're not all the same bolt either. There's a random Allen bolt in there. There's an OEM bolt in there. So you got a good combination. Alright, got the old bearing, got a new bearing. The center bore of that bearing is absolutely perfect. This one is a bit scored up and full of old grease. So we're gonna get some brand new grease in there, get this brand new tight bearing in there, and then leave that guy. Alright, clutch is back in, new bearing. And I also went ahead and put a dowel in that hole there. There was only one dowel in the trans. So we're gonna make this as good as we can. Got nice fresh brand new grease in there, nice fresh brand new grease on that end, everything cleaned up and ready to go back on. All right, so these are the bolts that came out of the transmission to engine, and none of them are the right length for the bottom. This is basically a couple of short bolts and a couple of top bolts. It was missing the top two bolts as well that hold the transmission to the engine. I've been looking for a while to try and find some bolts. They need to be about 80 millimeters. And I found one bolt used and then one new suspension bolt that's the right length. And I mean, it's looks like it's the best I can do on short notice, since I didn't know that it wasn't going to have the right bolts in it. I probably should have guessed looking at the rest of the car, but at least I've got some bolts for the top to put back in now.
So the car did come in with one of the calipers installed. It's more than likely wrong. One thing we noticed is the brake pads. We have two with the piece that is the indicator for the noise. Let me show you real quick. This piece right here. Well, fortunately it doesn't work on the spoon caliper. This has to be removed, and that little tab has to be sheathed. But again, it's just one of those telltale signs that somebody put it together and either didn't want to get involved in this one or they just got it wrong. So anyway, this is bolted on. These are the aftermarket rotors that are larger, as you see. A massive storm over, so it's kind of loud in here, but that was the hardware he had. This is a new one that we had, so that looks so much better in a nice freshly powder coated caliper. What do you think? There's a rebuild kit right there. This is what comes with it, all the parts to rebuild the caliper, so now we can put this guy together. Well, I'm no fan of wire tucks or hose tucks or any of that, just hiding everything so it looks cool for the car show. Usually it's an issue because you're stretching wires and putting wires where they shouldn't go. Wires get rubbed through, wires get stretched, terminals get broken, and it just adds more issues to your car, and even more issues for someone trying to find out where the wire is that has the issue. Now it's stuffed inside a fender or something like that. So there's no lying. I hate wire tucks. So we have the new master. That has fixed that leaking issue. Then the next problem is we have another drip down here, and it's the line coming from that ABS unit. So it looks like it's coming from here. I'm gonna go ahead and take it up to our line company and see if there's anything they can do with it, or if it needs to be replaced, the whole thing. This is just like, it's just never ending with this thing. We got this in pieces again. It's been leaking oil, and we thought it was the front main seal, and it's not. It's this cover right here. It's where somebody swapped the head or swapped the cover, and it's leaking around here. The gasket is pushed out a little bit. You see the wet right there. That's not a good scenario at all. So this job was really supposed to be a 2 to 3 day job max. Just basically put the different injectors in, go over it, get it running, and verify everything else can be worked on later. But having to fix so many leaks, the brake system leaked everywhere. The engine leaked from 3 different points. The coolant system leaked everywhere it could leak. Every bolt that was put in was not tight. It's an ongoing project. We're gonna circle back around and show you this more, but right now we're gonna get back to our scheduled work. We're just gonna put this in the background and try and do our best to work on it as much as we can and get this thing to where you can drive it, and then figure the rest of the little small issues. Something quite a bit different here for you. This is an Integra with a K24 in it. It's set up as a full-on dedicated track car. This had new pistons put in it because apparently it melted one of them on the last track session, so that's one of the main reasons we're going to go over the tune as well.
What's even cooler is tell them what class it races in.
This was a shock to George and I. It races in the vintage class. It's kind of oh, you feel bad hearing that.
The 30-year-old car.
We don't look at this as vintage. It kind of shows you, it reminds you of your age when we look at this and go, this isn't that old. And you go, yeah, it is. It's a 30-year-old car. So we're going to go over it right now. There's no wideband in it. There is an AEM, but nothing plumbed into the ECU. And I never like to tune based on just one gauge, especially when we don't know how good that gauge is. There's the exhaust George just pulled out. We're going to put a bung in there. And what does that do?
Look at the welds. See
Whatever
how small they are?
Yeah. Is that just because they know it's going to break?
They're all undercut too. So yeah, they should break eventually. So yeah, do that and there'll less chance.
That's someone that doesn't even trust their own weld when they're putting
exactly.
a patch.
I think
on
this
it.
may be two different people.
Okay.
Because if you go by and you undercut that bad, I think before you do that, you probably would have went over it.
Yeah, I was going to say, this guy goes, you know what, I'm using all the rod. This guy goes,
yeah.
I never got the rod with my welder. Yeah, it's like barely fusioned in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not keep riffing on this guy. Let's put the bung in there. We can put our wideband in because we have a new wideband. Nice. And we'll do some runs and see where it's at. So what we're going to do is look at the map that's in it and do a partial run. We're going to get it up to temperature, make sure it's happy. Is this reading air fuel from the AM? Is it, are they agreeing, or is it taking it from the, it don't have a factory wideband, does it?
No.
Okay, so I'll take a look, make sure, I don't know if it's feeding into the laptop. These look like they're
Close enough.
They're very close. Did a partial run just to kind of get an idea. This is where it was at, and as you see, way lean. It's an actually aspirated car, but it started in the 13s and just crept up, so we let out of it. We let out of it at about 5,000 RPM. As you see, it didn't even hit VTEC crossover, but you got to get some data that you can't run a full run if it's not safe. Okay. I want to put a little bit more fuel in, but at least we're where we could do a full run. Two and a half inch exhaust, which is a little tiny, but it's definitely making good torque and it's safe now. ECU just came back from Nomis. So you guys, a lot of people that saw my post referred me to him, and he even reached out. So thank you. Give you a quick backstory on this P28. So the one that is in the car right now, this is so bizarre. I've been working on these for 30 years, by the way. A few people have given me some ideas of what I should check. But anyway, this was the ECU I had done by HA Motorsports. Everything works fine until it runs for about 2 hours. Then all kinds of wacky things start happening. It starts randomly dumping fuel, starts having all kinds of issues, starts misfiring. Let the car sit and chill for an hour, 2 hours, it runs fine again. Or if you upload a new map, it runs fine for about the first 10 minutes. So there's something definitely wacky going on with this ECU. I don't really know what would be happening. One friend said it might be an injector driver because it randomly starts running rich and it doesn't matter what else you do. So this ECU that was in here was a Virgin P28 I sent out to a friend of mine. He socketed it for S2000 and it ran fine for about 2 miles, and then the fuel pump output quit, left me stranded on the side of the road. I shipped him this ECU, and he went through it. He said he replaced a few things on it and tested it in his car. So I'm gonna put that S300 in here. Stickers. S300. One thing is a note: don't be sitting on carpet, standing on carpet, shuffling your feet around to get static electricity buildup. I always stand on concrete. I don't know how important that is, but big fan of anti-static when I'm messing with ECU parts. Well, let's carefully take this thing out, and then hopefully this ECU will start. So you might see behind me, any guesses what that is? I want to tell you about it here in a second. Some changes in our plan with the CRX for Sebastian. If you've seen any of our videos, we have the CRX that we're going to be building for him. Well, we're going to change that for a couple of reasons. There we go. I'm going to plug this in, trickle charge this, because I know it's not ideal, but I did a little review on this jump box because I like it so much. It's saved us a lot of headache, and it's easy, especially when I just need a car to start. I don't want to sit and mess around and pull out my rolly box and such. All right, ready? Yes, beautiful. Now, some of you guys are like, hey, why don't you just buy a Haltech or a Link or something like that and spend $1,500? Well, even though I am a huge YouTuber and I make all kinds of revenue doing YouTube videos, if you can hear the sarcasm in my voice there, I can't afford a Link ECU or a Haltech or something like that. That's why I'm limping along with these 30-year-old ECUs. That's what's telling you the battery is doing right now. You see how it's just dropping. This box is cool, by the way. If you watch my review, good little box. I'm going to go ahead and plug the trickle charger in this. I'm going to laugh at this little charger, but you know what? It's been fantastic. It's a really good little trickle charger. I know it looks like something you would get from the flea market, which is probably where it came from, but it works fantastic. My last VTEC quit working, and it was so frustrating. And this just works. Let's plug it in. I'll show you what it looks like. Look at it. It's doing its thing. It's a fully automatic smart charger. So believe it or not, it actually works really well. I'm just going to let this trickle charge. It's on automatic. Like I say, it does a good job. So my VTEC took a poop. It just quit. And I didn't do anything crazy with it. Like I mentioned, making massive amounts of money on YouTube. So that's why I'm limping along 30-year-old ECUs. Plus, that's kind of the nature of this car. It's an old school car. That's one of the reasons I haven't done coil on plug. Trying to keep the nostalgia of this car. It does have a lot of history. This is a Honda Insight. This is what we built about 6 years ago. We called it an L-Sight. The L is green. It stands for Eco. We put an L series motor in here 6 or 7 years ago. The customer enjoyed it so much he decided to take it to the road course, and he spent a lot of his time at the firm. There's some videos on this car. Makes 100 horsepower, 100 foot-pounds, something like that. It did upgrade the wheels and tires.
Cars, one of them could be a race car. You don't get the like, let's say you go to Sebring, right? Which Brian, like a 11 or 12 or whatever the fuck he runs. So let's say Lucas goes to Sebring someday.
And of course, brakes and suspension. Anyway, I bought the car back. He was selling the car. We liked the car so much, I bought it back. At the time, I wasn't really sure what we were going to do with it. Well, we did have plans. Remember the logo we came up with the green? We did have plans of building the CRX for my son because he took a liking to it when he was about 4 years old. CRX is over here. It's a CRX HF. It does have front and rear discs. It has some better parts in it. I'll show you more on this later, but it has a semi-blown up HF motor. It runs, but it's just the original motor. I don't say it's not blown up. It just misfires randomly, and it's just tired. It's not very peppy. Well, anyway, Sebastian took a liking to this when he was 4 or 5 years old, and he's coming close to driving. So I said what we would do is we'd build this car together. More thinking about it, it's a 30-year-old car. 30-year-old cars break. Is he going to be able to get parts for it? In 10 years, this car kind of fell in my lap. This is like a more futuristic kind of CRX, especially with the motor. He sat in this, fell in love with this, so we said, you know what? Why don't we make this his car? For one, it has ABS, it has airbags, it's probably got a little bit more safer rating for crash testing, and the insurance company might like this one more than the CRX. So we're going to build this for him and build the CRX to sell. So keep an eye on that. If you've seen the CRX, you know what it's about, but we'll do a good job with it and show you the whole process. But that is the plan with this car.